In this video, we're going to be looking at dimension types inside of Autodesk Inventor's drawing environment. Here I have the dimension types DWG from our working files set. I'm going to begin by examining this dimension here on the left-hand side of 1.25. When I zoom into it and right-click on it, I get an option of editing the model dimension. By selecting this, it actually allows me to modify the sketch dimension inside of the model. By changing the value, you can see it actually updates the model geometry. Other dimensions that reference this will also update. You can only have one referenced model dimension, so when I right-click on this one, I do not get the option to edit the model dimension. This is known as a drawing dimension. These are created here inside the drawing environment and do not necessarily reference directly back to the model. Instead, they reference off selections you make here in the drawing environment. You can also create other types of dimensions, such as inspection dimensions, shown here, and tolerance dimensions, shown here. For any of our dimension types, we can turn them into either a tolerance or an inspection dimension. So if I right-click on this model dimension and choose the Edit selection, I can go to the Precision and Tolerance, as well as Inspection for that particular dimension. Same thing if I do that to the one up here. If I choose Edit, I have the same options for that dimension as I do for the modeling dimension. So what's the main difference here between these two? When we go through and modify our dimensions, we have the same set of tools. With the modeling dimension, however, we have the ability to change our model from within inside of our drawing. That can be a really powerful tool or a really dangerous one. By being able to change our model files from our drawings, we can make quick changes, which is very beneficial if you know everything about your design. However, if you did not originally design this model and you don't know everywhere that it is utilized, then you might have a hard time changing values without creating some sort of backlash downstream. Maybe the position in the assembly updates in an incorrect manner. You may not know because you're not that intimate with the design. In companies where you have designers and you have drafters, this is a very interesting dynamic to go back and forth. Most of the time, if you're unsure, you're better off just creating drawing dimensions instead of referencing in the model dimensions. However, if you are very intimate with your design, and you know exactly where that model updates and how it updates and what's going to change in the assembly, you're more than welcome to bring in model dimensions and make their changes. So this has been a look at dimension types inside of Inventor's drawing environment. In this video, we're going to examine how to bring in our modeling dimensions into our drawing environment. Here I have the Retrieve Model Dimensions DWG from our Working Files directory. I'm going to begin by selecting our view, right-clicking on it, and then choosing the Retrieve Dimensions option. Now, if you don't see it initially, like I don't see it here, it may be down in your Overflow menu down below. That's one way we can access the command. If I choose Cancel here, and instead go to my Annotate tab, on my Dimension panel, I can choose the Retrieve command from there. Here I need to select a view, and then to select which dimensions I would like to bring in. I'll begin by selecting this view, and then which dimensions. I would like to bring in the 125 and the 5. I'll right-click and choose Apply if I would like to keep adding more dimensions, or OK to finish the command. Now I know these are model dimensions because I can right-click on them and choose Edit Model Dimension. We can also bring in model dimensions on our isometric views. However, remember that our modeling dimensions can only be referenced in to one view. I've already consumed the 5 and the 1.25. If I right-click on this one and choose Retrieve Dimensions, I only have the ability to bring in the spacings, the thicknesses, and some of those hole spacings that I had inside of that view. So here I will cancel. Let's say I delete the 125 from down here, restart the Retrieve Dimensions command, select my dimensions. I can now choose the 125 in this view. So you can bring in modeling dimensions to standard orthographics or isometrics as long as you understand that you can only bring that into one view. Here I will cancel. The other way we can bring in model dimensions is by initial placement of our views. if I start the base view command on the display options, there is a check mark to bring in all model dimensions. This will become available once you have selected a component from the Component tab. A word of warning, when you retrieve all model dimensions during view placement, it might look a little bit like a bird's nest, and you'll find yourself deleting a lot of extra dimensions you may not have ever thought you needed during the modeling process. So this has been a look at how to retrieve model dimensions inside of Autodesk Inventor. In this video, we're going to see how to create our general dimensions or drawing-based dimensions inside of Autodesk Inventor. Here I have the Placing General Dimensions DWG from our Working Files directory. I'm going to begin by right-clicking and choosing my General Dimension command. You can also access this from the Annotate tab, Dimension panel. When I start the General Dimension command, it allows me to select on Model Geometry in a way similar to what we would find in our 2D sketch environment inside of Inventor. Down here, on the 4-hole rectangle piece, I will begin by selecting on one edge. This will then give me the value for that edge. I could have alternatively clicked on 2 points. Here I'll choose to place the dimension here, and I will immediately be prompted with the Edit Dimension dialog box. I don't normally come in here and modify my inspection dimensions, my precision and tolerances, or my text for every single dimension that I create. Instead, I like to do this one at a time afterwards. So for now, I'm going to uncheck a box here that says Edit Dimension when created. This will prevent this box from popping up all the time. Here I'll choose OK. And the next dimension I place in, let's say it's the overall dimension here, and when I drop it in, that box does not appear. Now if I select on geometry other than straight edges, such as this curvature, I will get a little icon to show up behind my cursor that shows a radius. You guessed it, that's going to create a radial dimension. Let's say I wanted to have a diametric there, or I wanted to have the arc length there instead. I could right-click before I place it and choose a different dimension type from my flyout. Here I'll choose a diameter instead. Now on the other side, I'm going to be a little bit more haphazard with my selection process. And instead of picking the curvature, I will actually pick somewhere where I see this green dot. Now don't let that fool you, even though you're seeing a radius symbol behind your cursor. You are actually grabbing the midpoint of that arc. So that selection does not yield a dimension to come off of it. It's actually waiting for your next selection. Now to filter that out, you could right-click and go to Snap Settings and toggle off midpoint. I can count on my left hand how many times I've ever needed to snap to a midpoint inside of a drawing. Therefore, I like to turn it off. This setting, when adjusted, will retain itself for the next time you launch Inventor. So you don't have to keep doing this for every drawing you go to. Here I will hit Escape, right-click and go back to General Dimension. Now I will not get that green dot on that center of the arc. Now those right-click options for dimensions also exist for other linear values. For instance, when I click on this line to dimension it, and then pull my cursor away, you can see it does go aligned, or based on where I put my cursor, it might go horizontal or vertical. To force the alignment, I can right-click to go to Dimension Type and choose Aligned. The last dimension I'm going to show you here is actually a really difficult one, so you might want to watch this segment of the video a couple times. What I'm going to do is create an intersection dimension where this line and this line apparently meet up here at an apparent intersection corner, and have that dimension to the same type of apparent intersection in the lower right of this triangular plate. You need to select one line first, right-click, and choose the intersection variable. Select another line that is picking up that apparent intersection. Now the next line I select, let's say it's this one here at the bottom, it's trying to now create a dimension from the apparent intersection at the top to that line at the bottom. Well, that's not what I want. I want another apparent intersection. So I need to right-click again and choose Intersection. Pick another linear edge here. And now I can go to the aligned values between these two apparent intersections for placement. So that's one of the toughest dimensions you can create with this command because it involves a few different steps to go through as you're placing the linear or aligned value. So this has been a look at placing general dimensions inside of Autodesk Inventor. In this video, we're going to examine how to create baseline dimensions and baseline dimension sets inside of Autodesk Inventor. Here in the Creating Baseline Dimensions DWG, I'm going to go to our Annotate tab, and on our Dimension panel, I have a command called Baseline, as well as a command called Baseline Set that is available in the flyout for that command. Now these two commands operate very similar to each other. However, there are a few nuances between them. So when I start a baseline command, the tool will have me select on different edges or pieces of geometry to dimension to. So I'll do that with these 4 circles and that far left edge. Once I have those selected, I'll right-click and choose Continue. As you can see, it is pulling a baseline datum reference set off that left-hand edge for me to place in these 4 dimensions. I can also right-click on one of my extension lines and make that the origin rather than the left-hand side edge. But once I'm satisfied with my dimensional placements, I can choose the Create option here. That is the one last step that a lot of people miss with this command. So when you drop those dimensions in, you're not done yet. Make sure you right-click and choose Create. Now once those 4 dimensions are created, they are 4 unique dimensions, all upon themselves. So you can go through here and you can change precisions or dimension types. You could also delete individual ones if you want to just by selecting on it and hitting delete. And that simply clears out that one dimension. Now how does a baseline dimension set differ than this baseline command? Well, I'm going to go ahead and delete these and start the other tool. They start out the same way, where you pick the geometry you would like to dimension to, right-click, choose Continue, drop them in place where you want them to be. You can still right-click and change your origins, or choose the Create option. The benefit I have now, though, is I can go back after the fact and examine that they are one complete dimensional set. If I make a precision change to one of them, it makes a change to all 4 of them. I also have the ability to right-click on the extension lines now and change the origin after the fact. I also have the ability to add in an additional member that I might have forgotten. So here I'll choose the Add Member option, and I'll pick my far right edge, and that will add in the additional dimension that I had missed. I can also right-click and either detach or delete members. Now there is a difference there. Detachment of a member takes it out of my dimensional set. So if I detach this one, I'll have 4 dimensions in the set in one lone dimension by himself. If I choose to delete the member, it actually deletes it, gets rid of it entirely. So there's a small difference there between those two. Now I did these baseline sets going up. I could also have placed these going to the left or right based on where my cursor was going to drop them in. So this has been a look at creating baseline dimensions inside of Autodesk Inventor. In this video, we're going to see how to create ordinate dimensions inside of Autodesk Inventor. So in the Creating Ordinate Dimensions DWG from our Working Files directory, I'm going to go to my Annotate tab. On my Dimension panel, I will see there's Ordinate and Ordinate Set. To begin with, I'll start with the Ordinate command. This command will have me select a view to get started, and then select an origin location. Here I will choose the far left edge of this part. Next, the command has me select Model Geometry to create dimensions off of. It will use that origin locator as a guide to measure from. When I right-click and choose Continue, I can place them either vertically or horizontally based on where I drop my cursor. Once I select, it'll place them there. However, it does not yet create them. What I have to do next is right-click and choose OK, and then it will generate my separate ordinate dimensions. These can also be dragged around by their elbows, in case you need to leave extra room. Now the ordinate set is a little bit different, so let me erase these. When I choose the Ordinate Set command, I still have to specify my origin point, select my model geometry, right-click and choose Continue, place them where I want, right-click and say Create, and everything seems pretty straightforward here, although you are seeing a few extra options down below I do have an option to change the origin, to reverse the direction, or also to show direction for which way the ordinates are flowing. For now, I will just choose my create option. Now these differ from the ordinate command because I can come back in here and operate them as a complete set. So if I change precision, it changes precision for all of them. If I right click on one of them, I can add additional members, delete members, and also change the origin and the direction. So as an example here, I'll go ahead and right click on this one and say add member. Here I will choose the left quadrant of the circle and the right quadrant of the circle. You can see it automatically adds in the elbows and shifts them over. If I would like to delete a member, such as the 1.88 value here, I'll just right click on it and choose delete. Now I can shift this back in by grabbing on my green dots. So this has been a look at how to create ordinate and ordinate sets inside of Autodesk Inventor. In this video, we're going to see how to create chain dimensions inside of Autodesk Inventor. On the Annotate tab, Dimension panel, I have a chain and a chain set command. I'm going to begin with the chain command. The tool will have me select model geometry that I would like to chain my dimensions to. Here I'll pick the left-hand edge and my circles. Right-click and choose Continue, and you can see it's creating my chain dimensions. Now when I select to drop them in, I have not done yet. I do have to right-click and choose the Create option. Now a general note about chain dimensions, you want to be careful how you use these. When you use chain dimensioning, you might get a tolerance stack up in your fabricated models. For instance, if I had a plus or minus tolerance on every dimension here, as I go from one dimension to the next, and I was on the high side of my tolerance, I could get a very, very high tolerance buildup when I get to my last circle. Instead, most people prefer a baseline dimension set or an ordinate dimension set in favor of the chain set as you see here. However, some circumstances do require chain dimensioning, so this is a quick way on how to do that. These are each individual dimensions, so if I were to select on one of them, I can change precisions and dimension styles. For now, I'm just going to delete them and look at how the chain set differs from the chain command. So in the flyout for chain, I will choose chain set, select my same geometry, just like I did before, right-click and continue, just like I did before, place my dimensions, right-click and choose Create, again, just like before. But now, this whole set of dimensions operates as a whole set together. So if I were to right-click on one of these and change their precision, it would change it for all four of them. If I forgot to add a member, I could come in here and do that as well. So at this time, I'll choose Add Member, pick on this last edge, and it adds in the additional chain dimension, which is now also part of that set. So this has been a look at how to create chain dimensions inside of Inventor. In this video, we're going to see how to edit our dimensions inside of our drawing environment. Here I have the Editing Dimensions DWG from our Working Files directory, and I'm going to begin by examining how to change precision. So here on the 1.25 dimension, I'm going to right-click on that and go to my Precision flyout. Here, I can choose another available precision from my list. For this particular dimension, I'm going to reduce it by 1 decimal point. Obviously, we don't want to go up too high, so let's keep it within a manufacturing tolerance and go here to this 1 dimension place up. So you can see it changed to 1.3. Now let's say I want that precision to be created or modified for multiple other dimensions. What I can do is right-click on that dimension and choose a setting here called Copy Properties. That is now my master dimension, and now when I click to other dimensions, such as the 5 or this 0.25 up here, it will automatically change the precision to match that original one. And that also works if I apply other things such as inspection dimensions or tolerances that we're going to see inside of this video. So let's say my 5 down here actually needs to have a precision on it as well as a tolerance. So when I right-click on this, I can go to my Edit command. This will bring up my Edit Dimension dialog, And we'll begin by looking at the Text tab here first. On my Text tab, I can adjust my justification. I can hide my dimension value, almost never a good idea. I can add in additional symbols that can aid in GD&T as well as other types of documentation. If I go to precision and tolerance, I can adjust my primary unit precision here as well as my tolerance precision. Now for the type of tolerance I want, I can pick that on the left-hand side. I can choose basic, which will put the box around my text. I can do it as a reference dimension for tolerancing. I can also do symmetric. So maybe I have a standard symmetric plus or minus tolerance value to add in here. I could also add in a deviated value. So maybe I'm high of 0.05 but a low of 0.03. And you see that automatically being reflected in my drawing. I'm going to say OK to this because that's what I want for that dimension. Now my dimension up here of this 0.63, this is a critical dimension for quality control. So I'm going to apply an inspection dimension to that one. I'll right-click on it and go back here to edit once more. I'll go to my last tab called Inspection, and I'll turn on the inspection dimension. I'll give it a different shape here, such as a bubble or pill shape, if you will. And I'll put a label on it, such as CR for critical and an inspection rate of 80%. I'll choose OK, and there I have an inspection dimension. I might just have to move it out a little bit just by grabbing on the text. So that's something we can do for all dimensions. We can grab on the text and move it along the dimension line. Notice how we do get a snap to center there, which is very handy. Now the next thing we want to look at is what might happen if you are in a tight squeeze or if one of your coworkers is in a tight squeeze where they just want to change a dimension and not actually change the model. First of all, that's a horrible idea. Whenever you want to change a modeling value, you don't come into the drawing and fudge dimensions. You go back to the modeling part, you change it there, and then it automatically gets reflected into your drawings. So if I were to change my overall extrusion length here from 5 to 6 inside the modeling environment, this dimension automatically updates. However, let's say this 4.38 value, someone came in and said, well, that's wrong, it needs to be 4.25. If I right-click on this and go here to Edit, on the Text tab, I could tell it to hide the dimension value and type in 4.25. Now by doing this, it's no longer parametrically linked. If I update that whole location, this dimension stays 4.25. Even if I change it to something like 10 or 12 or something really long and far out there. So how do I recover this? How do I even recognize that that has been fudged by somebody? I'm going to say OK to this. In order to identify modified dimensions, I can go up to my Quick Access toolbar, choose my selection filter, and there is a button down here called Select All Overridden Dimensions. This is very helpful if you have someone in the office that you don't trust is actually updating the models correctly and they're just trying to fudge through their drawings and get them out the door quicker. So here I'll select All Overridden Dimensions, and you can see it highlights that fudged value. So now I can come back here as a user, right-click on it, and examine this with my edit command. And I can say, yes, someone came in here and typed that in. That's a no-no. Instead, I will uncheck the hide dimension value. I'll choose OK, and all is right with the world again. Now the next thing I want to do here to make this drawing cleaner is to also rearrange these dimensions up here because they're kind of sloppy. Normally when I have the smaller ones down below the 1.88 and kind of cascade them up. So I will go to my Annotate tab and hit the Arrange button. Arrange will allow me to select my dimensions, and it doesn't really matter in which order you do so. Right-click and choose OK, and it will automatically arrange them for me. I do have a small problem here with my radius. I'll just bring this one down here, or actually that's a diameter value. Just kind of bring that outside of that circle. This one here, I'm going to move my text a little bit more. You can also change the oblique angle if you want to adjust that as well. For now, just undo that. Now, if you are placing dimensions on an isometric view, first of all, it's never a fun thing to do, although it looks awesome. If you go to your isometric view with a general dimension command, and you click on an edge like this one here, it automatically will start pulling your dimension off of there, However, if you don't like that orientation, depending on what you selected, you could choose spacebar to toggle your annotation plane. So it's an easy way to modify an isometric dimension as you're placing it so it comes out the way you want to see it. Now, what if I want to have a dimension that's a different dimension style? For instance, my 4.38, I would like that to be a millimeter value and have that inch value in brackets behind it. If I select this dimension, what's going to happen is in the upper right area of my screen, on the Format panel, I will have the ability to change different dimension styles. So now that is selected, I can go up here to the upper right and change over to a different type, such as default millimeter with inches and brackets. So I'm going to choose that one. And there you can see it's changed to a millimeter value, inches and brackets. If I choose this one here next, maybe I want to do an architectural style. Well, how do I do that as I'm placing dimensions? Easy. Start your general dimension command, go to your format, and pre-select which style you want. So here I will pre-select architectural style. Now when I place my dimension on, from here to here, it's in my inch format. Let's say I do a duplicate dimension to here. You can see it's in my inch format architectural style as well. When I say OK and finish the command, and then immediately restart it, it actually is remembering my architectural style. It doesn't do that out of the box. I made a change to my settings so that it remembers the last style I used. In order to do this, we need to go to our application options. So I will click my application menu, go down here to my application options. On the drawing tab of our application options, we will see a setting called default object style. We can set it to the last used object style instead of the by standard. That way, when I choose an overridden style or a different style, it's going to remember that the next time I need to use that tool. And that goes more than just general dimensions. That goes for just about any one of our dimensioning types we have on our Annotate tab. So this has been a look at editing our dimensions inside of Autodesk Inventor.